Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial from audibletrial.com/talk it out. We're over 1,800 titles to choose from your Android, your Kindle, or MP3 player, even your iPhone. Let's get started. We are talking it out in a millennial kind of world. I'm glad I got my girl.
Keep your head up.
What?
Keep your head up.
That's
right.
right.
Whenever this fight gets tough,
We
we gotta
gotta
fight
swing
with
right.
my homegirl standing to my left and my right. True blue.
We're tight like glue.
We are talking it out.
Today's podcast, we're going to talk about the treatment of children and how we as adults affect their everyday life. So, to start it out, Gabby, how do you feel about children? Period. How do you feel about children and how we affect them or what we do with them?
I love children, as you know. I work at an establishment that has a lot of children. And from my experience working with children and just being a child, of course, and seeing my cousins and everybody grow up, I think children are the most disrespected group of anybody in this entire world.
Even more than old people?
Even more than old people. Because if you think about it, children are allowed to be, you're allowed to manipulate them, you're allowed to demean them, you're allowed to beat them, you're allowed to, the people that are supposed to take care of them are allowed to call them names and to disrespect them and embarrass them, and no one blinks an eye and they have no power. So even if they wanted to do something about it, they couldn't do anything about it. There's no social movement of kids rallying together and protesting bad parenting. Yeah. They just have to deal with it. And then when you get older, hopefully you can get away from that situation if that's a situation you're living in. So that's my view. What do y'all think?
I don't know. Okay, y'all might be getting mad at me, but I am kind of on the fence when it comes to children being the most disrespected group. Of course, I think children are disrespected. Of course, I think when I say disrespected, I mean I've literally had someone tell me as a child, I was about 12. Someone told me, "You're a child. You don't deserve respect." And I was like, what? I was like, okay,
Right.
I guess I don't give it either. But no. Well, I just think children are disrespected. But then I also think when you say bad parenting, what does that constitute? Because a bad parent to me is somebody who doesn't care for their child, who doesn't try to do, feed them, clothe them, shelter them, who doesn't do those things. And when you don't do those things, that makes you a bad parent.
But do you think that, okay, so just to you, not feeding and clothing a child is bad parenting. Do you feel that, are you okay with spanking? Is that bad parenting, or is that something that you think children deserve to have if they do something wrong? And be honest here, because I don't care. It's
I feel
your
like
opinion.
y'all gonna get on me, but
No, it's your opinion.
It's your
opinion.
okay. Well, I believe in a good spanking. But when I say a spanking is different from a beating. When you're beating a child, like I saw a mother throw her child against a brick wall and claim she was whooping her. That is not whooping or spanking. That's beating.
Right.
Because who knows what that child could have hit. You know what I'm saying? Her head against a wall. That's crazy. But a spanking is when you take a hand or a switch. I preferably don't like hands. I like either a good switch or a light belt.
Okay, so an object. So you like beating your children with objects?
Oh my gosh, you see how judgmental that is?
No, I'm just saying. Because to me, like as a child that was spanked, or as a child that, you know, her parents were like, or maybe not her parents, but her mother was like, you deserve a spanking if you do something wrong. I don't feel like that helped me, and all that diminished my self-esteem, that made me feel like I wasn't doing something correct. If I didn't do something wrong, I was afraid for my mother to look at me if I did something wrong or touch me, because I was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna get a whooping, and I'm gonna be hurt, and I'm gonna be like, and there's so much studies and research that they have done on it, where if you do hit your child, or if you do spank them, whether it's with objects or whether it's with your hand, they have more of a chance to be or they have more of a chance to not achieve as much as children who are not beat and who are not hit. Mm-hmm. And also it makes them really aggressive, not only towards you, but as like towards other children. Like the irony of a child hitting you, yeah, and then you hitting them back, and you saying, no, you're not supposed to hit your parent. Like, how does that make any sense? Like, you're hitting them for them not to hit you. So, long story short, I don't feel like it's okay.
Right.
It's never okay.
And also, I want us to not just focus on the physical aspects of not being a good parent, because I think you can provide your child with a place to stay. You can give them food to eat. You can give them the nicest clothes or whatever, and you can still be a terrible parent. You can emotionally and spiritually abuse them. You can physically abuse them. And one thing we don't really talk about in any community really is the mental abuse that sometimes goes on, or the emotional manipulation that can sometimes happen to children, and parents sometimes they don't even know what they're doing. It's just the way they were brought up and how they were treated,
Yeah. I agree with that. I think, okay, well, let me retract my statement and restate it. I think you could be considered a good parent if you, not only should you clothe, feed, and shelter your child, but if you're there for them emotionally. Of course, everybody goes through ups and downs, and that's just a part of life. But what I mean, a bad parent is someone who chooses drugs over their children, or chooses gambling, or someone who chooses their girlfriend or boyfriend over their child. If you're choosing to spend 5 nights a week out without your child, with your boyfriend, and your child is at their grandparents' house, then you're not a good parent. That's just my opinion. And I also think that if you're going to whoop your child or discipline your child, of course, I think a good whooping is okay. But I also think it's a last resort. I think punishment is good. Even from a young age, they always have something that they want, that they need to be, that can be taken away from them. I believe getting your child involved in activities so that they can have something to take away, that's also a good point too.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring up with you guys, were either one of you grounded as kids? Yeah. Like, were you grounded? Okay, so you were. You weren't grounded ever?
No. Gabby was, and Joy said she was not.
Okay,
no.
So were you ever, like, punished to the fact where, like, you couldn't go somewhere that weekend because you did something wrong or something like that?
No, this is hilarious to me. I was never. So
how are you going to say your opinion on spanking, but you were never, like, punished
spanked.
or anything?
I was spanked.
Oh, you were spanked?
I was spanked. We're not going to get into the rest of that. But I was spanked, and I got whooped. Let's say, go get me a tree, 3 branches from the tree, and make sure they green. That's what my mother used to say to me. Green switches bounce back, and the brown ones, they break. So you have to go pick your switch.
I have a question then. When that happened, and after your mother whooped you or spanked you with the switch, how did you feel as a child? Not now, but how did you feel as a child when that happened? Were you hurt? Were you happy? Were you like, okay, well, now I learned my lesson? Like, how did you feel as a child?
I'm not going to lie. Truthfully, sometimes I did think she used the whooping to scare me, or to force me into doing something that I didn't want to do. But most of I was a very late in rebellion. I don't think I went through rebellion even right now, even yet. So I didn't really get that many whoopings. My sister, on the other hand, she got spanked, she got grounded, she got phones taken away. Like, I mean, my mom would say, you can't get on the computer, or to me, but you know what I mean? She could never tell me I wasn't going anywhere because I never had anywhere to go.
Right.
I didn't have any friends, so
I feel that.
who was she going to ground me from,
You did get grounded. Were you long-term grounded or was it like short-term grounding?
I think the longest I was grounded was like a week.
Dang.
So short-term grounding, basically.
Dang.
Yeah, I didn't do nothing.
Well,
Me too. I was a noob too. I didn't do anything.
I guess because I was such a rebel and was just like, I hate my mom.
KT
Like
was
I'm pursuing the white person. I hate your mom
Oh, no.
stereotype.
Oh, no.
Like the
no.
The white kid who like tells their parents, "I hate you."
I
That
thought
never-
I snatched a broom for her and almost went ballistic.
No, don't you dare touch your mom's hand when she's finna whoop you because
She wasn't going to whoop me. She was just taking
No.
the broom from me.
Oh my God, don't ever do that because then you will be told, I'm going to knock your teeth down your throat. I brought you into this world. I can take you out. And that goes back to the whole mentality of it. When you're told that as a kid, you're just like, I never want to live again. I mean, at least that's how I felt because it wasn't just, for me, it wasn't just, one day it's like this and the next day it's not like this. Every day it was like that because I would do something wrong or I would feel like I didn't live up to her standards. And if I didn't live up to her standards, then I was going to be like punished.
I felt like that and I was a good child, girl.
And that affected me like as an adult because I feel like a lot of the things that I do now, I feel like I don't want to do them because I was just told, you're not good enough to do this. Why are you still doing this?
Oh,
So,
woo-woo.
and that's not a pity story. That I'm just saying, like, that's how it affected me as an adult. As an adult, being whooped now, like, I don't really like people touching me that I don't know. Because, like, I'm afraid, like, you're going to take advantage of how I am or, like, me holding your hand or, I don't know. I'm just really reserved because of that. And even with relationships, like, it takes me so long to open up to people and, like, so long to talk to people on the phone. And even when me and Gabby became friends, we were friends, and it took us, I think, like a month almost before we talked on the phone.
Yeah, I don't even have your number.
Yeah, because I don't give my number out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so reserved and introverted, and I would just rather be at home. And I feel like a part of that has to do with how I was treated as a child. My feelings didn't matter, and I was disrespected, and my opinions didn't matter. So
I just feel like, okay, I can say something. I did try hard as a child to gain approval, to be that good girl. And that even lasted. So I didn't get a lot of whoopings so much as I got a lot of scalding, a lot of talking to. And when I say scalding, I mean
so a lot of mental.
a lot of,
Yeah.
girl, I can't believe you, or something like. I'm not gonna say what she said. I think that's private, but it did get to me. It did make me, even to this day, I'm like crying or wigging out when my mother disapprove of something, and I'm like, I'm 23. I should be able to make these decisions. But that's how I feel. But on the outside, I'm like, okay, mommy. That's weird. But I do have a quote from John Shelton Reed, and he is a sociologist who has written for the Wall Street Journal and let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, he's written for the Wall Street Journal, the National Review, and the Oxford American about human beings, and they're mostly things related to the South. Now, he said, and since we're in the South, I thought this was something that we should do. He said, we could say that people who eat grits, listen to country music, follow stock car racing, support corporal punishment in the schools, hunt possum, and go to Baptist church, and prefer bourbon to scotch are likely to be Southerners. And most of the time, people in the South, they agree with corporal punishment, whether it's in the school. I don't think it's in the schools anymore, but they do agree with it at home.
So that's a good point because I was doing some research myself on this, and apparently we actually have in the South we have corporal punishment at home that's illegal, and corporal punishment in the schools that's illegal. But in the North, and this includes from the West to the East, it's actually not okay to do it in the schools, but it is okay to do it at home.
Yeah.
So
See,
that kind of conflicts what you're
see,
saying.
the-
I didn't
no,
know
no,
it
no,
was. I
but-
didn't know it was. It's illegal in the South.
It is, but in the state of Tennessee specifically, it's illegal. But here's how they get away with it to make it not legal. You know, Tennessee is a conservative state, and most of those, most of them whoop their kids. It's just get it out there. But Tennessee's code, according to a legal site I found online, it says that Tennessee's code permits criminal charges against a parent, guardian, or custodian who administers unreasonable, quote, unreasonable corporate punishments which causes, quote, injury to a child. So it's anything they believe is unreasonable or injurious. If your bottom hurts because your mother spanked you, they might not find that unreasonable or injury. I think I think this code is going specifically towards abuse.
Okay, so that brings me to Gabby. We were talking a little bit earlier about what's the difference between abuse and discipline. So what's the difference for you? What do you think?
You mean abuse and spanking?
No, what's the difference between disciplining your child and abusing them? Because to me, there is a difference, and it's all as to how you apply it and how you apply those words. Because you could discipline your child, because disciplining is teaching them, but you could discipline them by spanking them to say no, don't do this.
Yeah.
And abuse is also like maybe hardcore spanking or something like that. Like, what's the difference to you between the two?
As far as abuse, I'd have to go through like every list of things that I think are abuse.
Okay,
ask
so
Joy,
do
I
you
don't
think, let me just bring something up. Do you think, okay, let's say for instance we have a teacher, and this teacher screams at children in the classroom and yanks them up when they're doing something wrong, like not following in line, not writing their things on time, not doing simple children things. Is that
She
abuse,
should be fired.
or is that discipline?
I think that's abuse because the only reason she's doing that is because she's frustrated.
Yes.
And she doesn't have the proper tools to get in the children to do what she wants them to do. And because of that, she's taking that out on the kids and yelling at them because she don't know how to do her job.
I took a parenting
think
class
that's
with my mother when we were considering fostering. I don't know why. She just wanted to do, she says, I want to help somebody. But anyway, so we took a parenting class, and they said that the difference between punishment and discipline is that punishment is more for the relief of the parent or guardian. When you discipline somebody, you're disciplining them for the child. But when you're punishing somebody, it's to relieve you of stress.
Yeah.
So, to Joy, so let's say a mother is in Target, and she is riding in her cart, and the child says, "Hey, I want this, Mom." And so mom says no. And then the child makes this huge, gigantic scene.
I've seen
And
that.
everyone has seen the white mom and the white kid running around crazy.
I didn't say they were white.
Like, no.
God, way to racially profile them.
She said we didn't say it.
No, okay, so you see that instance, and the mom yanks the child up, and she spanks her bottom right in the middle of Target, and says, no, you're not allowed to scream and yell just because you can't get this. And she just whoops him and whoops him.
May I add, while she's telling the child that she should not scream and yell, she herself is screaming and
Yeah,
yelling.
she herself is screaming and yelling, and while she's telling the child, no, Do
What's
you
your
feel like
question?
that is abuse, or do you feel like that is disciplining the child
I
for
f-
acting crazy in the store?
I feel like it's. I personally, okay, I feel like it's both. Here's why. I feel like it's discipline because when I'm with my 7 and 6 year old nephew, they don't do that because I give them a look and they know Lex is not.
Yeah, but that's not the instance. That is something that you have with them, and you have taught them.
Yes,
Don't do this in
and
the
if
store.
they did do, and that's why I feel like it's not. I feel like it's not abuse all the way abuse because it's
Only half abuse.
It's like half and half. It's half
You
abuse,
can't be half
discipline.
abuse.
It's habilisophin or whatever. Let's make up a word for it. But no, I think it's discipline because one, I think it's a tiny bit of discipline because a child normally knows what to do and what not to do in public. They're choosing to act like that because they feel like, I know as a child, you feel like, hey, if I can make it in public, then she'll get it just to stop me screaming. That's what most children think. But then it's also abuse because you should teach your children not to act like that from the get-go. And to do that publicly, not only is it harming them physically, but that's harming them mentally for you to do it in public. Like, oh my God, I can't believe she just did me.
And can we
anything.
also add how more than likely that child is going to do it again?
Yes.
And I have a question here because you said the child should know better, but we learn as children from the people around us. So, and also you said that child should have known from the get-go, or she should have been taught from the get-go.
Yeah, she should have been
so
taught.
she should have been taught from the get-go. She should have. I feel like that it's up to the parent to decide, hey, let me teach my child what's right from wrong by not beating them or spanking them in public so that they don't act this way in public. So obviously you brought up something. You said I give them a look and they already know better. So you have
My
taught
mother
them
used
at
to give
home.
me a look too.
Right. You have taught them at home what that look means. Like, hey, don't do this. So okay, so now I have another question here. Do you feel like the look works better or spanking
sometimes
works
I
better?
feel like sometimes the look is you're going to get a spanking if you don't cut it out.
So it's fear.
It is. I'll admit that it is fear, but I will say that children are more conniving than you think, and
But where do they get that from? Because children learn what we teach
No,
them.
I agree with that. But they're not my kids. You know what I mean?
I
But if
think
they
children, they don't learn to be children are just conniving.
You
yeah,
think so?
they are.
Yeah, I know.
It's because
You know?
it's because they're little and sweet, and everybody thinks, oh, they're cute, and that
And they're still trying. Their children are very, very selfish, and they're still trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, and they're gonna do whatever until you yourself lay out the boundaries and let them know what's right and what's wrong. So
Okay.
I think most you're not gonna get a perfect child. Every child is going to have those moments when you're just like, really, and you gotta correct them and you gotta tell them what's up.
I just got an incoming comment from Tastefully Tay on Instagram, and she says, "How are children going to learn if you don't whoop them while they're misbehaving? If you do it when they're not acting out anymore, then what's to stop them from doing it again?"
Good question. I actually looked up and did some research on that.
Well, I also
You did
some-
research too, so
I
go
also
ahead.
did some research on that, and I got something from Time magazine, which I am going to look up really quickly. In this Time magazine article entitled "Why Spanking Does Not Work," in one of the excerpts of the article, there's this quote. It says, "Moms and dads who spank do so because they believe it's effective, and research actually shows that it is. In the short term, a child reaching for a tempting object will stop if he gets swatted. It does work in the immediate moment, but beyond that, in most cases, it's not effective. The most common long-term consequence is that the child learns to use aggression. Case in point, one mother in a study hit her toddler after the toddler either hit or kicked the mother, admonishing, quote, 'This is to help you remember not to hit your mother,'
Or anybody.
But what they're saying is
Ironically.
it's teaching the child to hit to get what you want. If somebody is doing something that you don't like, which is why a lot of kids come and they're already hitting each other because that's what they see. That works. If somebody is doing something that you do not like, hit them to get them to stop. But then we teach them, no, you're not supposed to hit, and we hit them. So I think it continues a cycle of aggression, but that really wasn't
Well,
answering.
let me just
so-
say,
Here's the question. She basically asked, so how do we stop the children?
Yes.
How do we stop that? So to me, I feel like that we should do it so basically punishing them by spanking them creates resentment, and basically you wrestling with your child or spanking your child makes you their peer. It doesn't make you the adult, the calm parent. So I feel like in order to stop that, or in order to not spank your child, how you teach them is by timeouts, removing something from what they really, really like. Basically teach them, because a lot of times, I don't know if you as an adult, but a lot of times you don't do what you're supposed to do because you're like, why? Why should I do this? It doesn't make any sense.
I offer explanations.
You know?
When children ask
Right,
me why,
it's an
I offer
explanation.
explanations.
There has to be
But
an
I
explanation why
can
you can't do
say,
this.
I don't know why I'm holding on to this so strongly, but I am going to say that when I was young, I had a lot going on, and I was angry a lot of the time. And my anger didn't come out at school or whatever. It came out in my home or whenever someone would mess with me. And one day, I hit my sister in the stomach with my fist. Knocked the wind out of her.
Wow.
My mother hit me in my stomach, knocked the wind out of me. Ever since then, no matter what kind of argument me and my sister get into, or whatever, sisters fight, or whatever kind of fight we get into, I was so cautious, because we don't really fight anymore. We're grown. But I was so cautious not to hit her because I was scared. I was like, oh my God, I can't hit her. I can't hurt her because I know this is not right, because if I do, something's going to happen.
Okay, so you're saying ever since, how old were you when that happened?
I think I was like 8, maybe 7 or 8.
So you're saying ever since that moment, you never hit your sister ever?
No, I said I've been careful not to hurt her. We fought.
Hurt.
Not that you
fought.
that you haven't hit her.
Because I said sisters fight. We fought.
Yeah.
But we haven't gone, like, it hasn't been a brawl. It's been like a sister fight. Stop.
Oh, so the only thing keeping you from hitting your sister really hard was you thinking that your mom was going to come and hit you?
Or knowing that there were consequences, knowing that it was wrong, because I had hit my sister before, but I didn't realize, it's a bad thing. She would just normally, you are not to hit your sister. And then I was like, she ain't gonna do nothing about it, so I hit her again.
Do you think maybe just growing up and realizing that your sister had feelings and emotions, and
No,
that she
I
was
would
being
I
hurt?
would have knocked her out. I would have knocked her out.
So
it was just your mom that stopped you.
It was.
Okay.
I told you,
Okay.
even at 23, my mom has the power over
Okay.
me.
So I have a question off that, because basically you said that it has to do with consequences. You knew there was a consequence if you really hurt your sister really
Yes.
bad. So do you think that instead of your mom punching you in the stomach, like a grown-up should definitely do to children, that
wait,
instead
don't touch
she
my
said,
mother.
she said, no, I'm judging all mothers who beat their children right now. No, do you think instead of doing that, she took something away from you or put you in time out?
But I'm 8. What am I
as a
gonna...
consequence? If she would have taught you at that time, no, you are now going to have to sit in the corner for an hour long because you hit your sister this way, and this is the consequences for doing this. Do you feel like that would have affected you at all?
I
as a
wouldn't
child?
have. It wouldn't have. I'm
It
going to
wouldn't
tell
have?
you why.
No.
Because I was so angry as a child. I would have looked at her, packed my bags like I did one day. I packed my bags and I walked out of the house like I was leaving until I figured out that I had nowhere to go. But no, I wouldn't have known that I would have then, even me then, I would have made the decision and said, oh, is my sister making me mad enough that I want to go sit in the corner? And I would have said, most of the time, I would have taken the punishment because I was that angry and I needed someone to let my anger out on, and I knew it couldn't be my mom.
Okay.
She showed me what it felt like to be hit, and I didn't like that feeling.
I wanted to talk about religious beatings.
Yeah,
How it is. How do you
Spare the rod, and the
wait a
child shall surely not perish.
So okay, and where does religious beatings come from?
The Bible?
I think that has become one of the reasons that a lot of people still hold on to this antiquated ritual, because they always bring out the Bible. Spare the rod, spoil the child. So
Yes.
pretty much if you don't whoop your children will automatically be spoiled, which is when we got the scientific evidence that's not true. And apparently that was not even the context of the verse. I read
I
somewhere
thought
that
it
wasn't
said,
even-
spare the rod, and the child shall surely not perish. Like, you're not going to die from a whooping.
No, it don't say that. I mean,
Let-
don't look at research.
Let me
time.
look it up.
I'm pretty sure it says spare the rod, spoil the child.
I just want to know, like, because to me, a lot of the whole respecting your elders and respecting how people treat you as a child was about, would you treat Jesus like this? How does Jesus feel? And stuff like that, when that doesn't even apply. Like, you treating
Edit out.
me like I don't have an opinion as a child has absolutely nothing to do with Jesus.
It has nothing to do, and that
Nothing.
that's going to be in our next podcast coming up later about how religion is used as a tool to sometimes to control people, because
It's
people
like a
just
cult.
Control.
they use things
cult.
out of context
Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna like that.
to pretty much justify their actions. So because the Bible says children obey your parents, even though they leave out the part that says parents don't what's the first? It's like don't provoke your children.
Oh, yes.
So
Fathers shall not provoke their children. That's what that one says. I
And-
know that one.
And they never quote that one, but they quote the children obey your parents because that's what they want you to
Okay,
do.
I did find the
like-
verse.
It
I did
manipulates
find the
you.
Bible verse, and it's gonna give y'all some leeway. But according to BibleGateway.com, the international version, or the NIV version, Proverbs 13:24 says, "Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the ones who love their children is careful to discipline them." Oh, wah, wah, wah. Okay.
But the thing is, we listened to it from a 2016 perspective. Were people really getting a rod and beating their children back in the day? Do we know this, or is this just something that we just assume?
It's one
Or
of
was
those.
that just a symbol
Symbolism.
of discipline? Because apparently, when shepherds would discipline their sheep, they use a rod.
Yes.
So I'm
that's-
thinking that's just
Yeah, symbolism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's become a mantra to justify beating kids, pretty much.
Yeah. I do agree. Whoopings are not necessarily
the best option.
the best option. But in times of need, because there are children, like I was a child, who would not listen unless I was shown the effects of the consequences. If we can find a way to make the effects of the consequences lasting to children, I didn't really get whoopings. I just got a talking to. I think it's per child. It depends on the child. I am going to say that whoopings are not necessarily the best option all the time. Like, you can do something else before you whoop a child, because that's just energy wasted. You're wasting energy, they're wasting energy, and if you're going to waste your energy, make sure that's your last option. That's my point of view advice.
Okay, so I want to talk about I want to talk about kind of like how to discipline, how to be better at disciplining your child, because like I was saying before, like there's steps that you probably should take, and you're saying like whooping should be your last option, and I 100% agree with that. If you are okay with whoopings, then please make that like your very last option. So to me, let's say, and I'm just making up something again, let's say for instance your daughter comes home from work, or not from work, but from her friend's house really, really late, and she's past curfew, and you're upset, and you're just like, why does she keep coming late from her curfew, and blah blah blah. And so what I've read and what I've researched, they best recommend, if she's coming in late, don't bring it up the night that she comes in. Sleep on it yourself. Take the time out to understand, hey, this is a person and they do make mistakes. Then the next morning, go to them or to that person and be like, hey, why is this happening? What happened? Where were you last night? Are you okay? Was there something that happened to make you late? You know what I'm saying? Understand the reason behind them being late.
I get it.
And then if they give something that's like, sorry, my friend didn't feel good, then you could be like, okay, well, I understand that your friend didn't feel good, but there is a time limit, or there is a curfew for you that you have to abide by. And if you don't understand this, then there will be other consequences. And so it's kind of communication.
Yeah.
It's like with any other relationship. Your relationships are not going to work if you do not communicate with them and with other people.
I would just like to point out that I think whoopings, like the example you're using is for a child who can go out on their own without their parent. My point of view for whoopings is for children who are like 10 and below.
Okay, so let me give that example then.
Ooh,
So
she came quick back.
we have, because I have 4 little sisters, and whenever I was with them, they listened to everything I said. My mom disrespected her, didn't care anything she said. My mom had to whoop them. Me, they listened to everything that I said. They still respect me. They still respect me. I've never beat them. I've never put a hand on them. I've never had to do that. So let's say, for instance, my little sister comes in, and she, at this time, is 4 years old, and she can't share with her other little sister, and they are having an argument between one toy. What I feel like should have happened, or what I would have done, is I would have went to them and been like, hey, this is only one toy. So you have to understand that this is only one toy. And then I would like make up some kind of game that if they're 4 years old and they don't understand the concept of even themselves being able to make their own decisions, then you say, let's make up this game and get their mind off of something completely different. And then they're not even worried about that one toy. And later on, you can be like, hey, it's your turn. You have this designated time to play with this toy. Mm-hmm. And then this kid has this designated time to play with this toy.
But what happens when they act out and they cry and they...
But that's children do
you
that.
You don't give in. You do not give in. That's the key. You can't give in to a child who is acting up, because then that take it away. That enables them.
I just take the toy away. If you're gonna cry and not be able to share,
then you
the toy is gonna be taken away. I don't see the point in negotiating with children, because
you don't respect them?
No, because if when you negotiate with a child, you're no longer putting yourself on an authoritative level. You're putting yourself down as their peer. Isn't that what you said? And
no, I said when you wrestle with them.
Yeah, and that negotiating is a wrestle to me. I'm negotiating with a hostage, with somebody who's holding somebody hostage, because I want to get down to their level and for them to understand that I connect with them. But if
I'm your children, you're supposed to connect with them.
But what I'm saying is, I can connect with them without negotiating with them. It's either this or that.
You want to be like the authority. Yeah, you want.
But one thing I can, because y'all just been going.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I've read up on the research in the establishment that I am now employed in.
Can I just ask you? Hold on, I'm sorry. Can you please stop using really big words?
In the establishment that I am employed in, we had to take classes where we learned about children and psychology, their psychology and stuff, and about behavioral management and all that type of stuff. And they encouraged us to give the children, even if it's a facade, even if it's not real, the idea that they have a choice.
Yes.
So if the
Yes.
child is like, if you're trying to get the child to, I don't know, go take a bath, you can say go take a bath. But if they're not listening to you, give them the idea that they have a choice. So say, would you like to take a bath with your rubber ducky, or would you like to take a bath with your whatever? And it gives them,
And I've had children who said that I don't want to take a bath.
so you just the thing is, people
You're getting
forget that
frustrated.
children, they just came into this world. They don't really have a concept of many things.
Yes.
So they're stubborn, and like I said, they're selfish. It takes time.
I
And I
agree.
think some parents that are not quite fit to be parents, don't want to take the time
To understand.
to understand and to put in the work.
And connect.
Yes,
It's
I-
just like
in that situation, what should have been done is, hey, you're gonna take a shower. You can either or a bath. You can either do it now or in the morning. And
Yep.
when they choose in the morning, which I have had happen, and you wake up, they're gonna say, well, you wouldn't be up this early if you took a bath last night. So the
Right,
next
right.
night they take a bath at night.
Yeah.
so that
See,
that
those
is
are-
that is
a good-
is
I
Practicing.
rarely
Compared to-
resort to whooping, but I do believe in the process of whooping because sometimes children just want to know that, hey, I can get away with this and this and this and this, and I know the consequences for this. But sometimes, I'm going to be honest, even us as adults, we need a little fear. Is what stops us from doing dangerous things.
I'm gonna be
I'm
honest.
not going to jump off of a ledge because I know that I'm going to die.
fear fuels me. Like being angry, that fuels me. Like
Okay, well,
if
jump
you-
off a ledge with
if I am angry and it has something to do with jumping off a ledge, I'm gonna jump off a ledge because
That's not good.
it's not good. That's a horrible example. But
You're gonna be
for
the one in a
instance-
million.
For instance, my mom, I don't even remember. There's so much she has done, but basically, I'm just gonna give some random idea. She has whooped me, and she's told me if I act like this again, then I'm gonna get an even worse whooping. Then I would have been like, okay, I've been beat once, I can be beat again, and then I can be beat
See,
again.
I
It
have
doesn't
something
matter
for
to
you,
me.
and it's
Like-
a child.
It doesn't matter to me. One whooping is 6 whoopings. Who cares? Like to me, it wasn't.
I understand that some
It
children
wasn't a whooping to me.
don't.
It was.
Some
It
children
It didn't help.
don't respond to whoopings. Like I say, it should be the last resort. If I was with you, you had more going on than just being rebellious. You needed somebody to sit down and talk with you. I would have
Damn,
said,
that were we not talking about connecting with your
that's what
child?
I'm just saying. I agree with that. That's what I just said.
We're all on the same page.
Exactly. Oh my God, Gabby, say it again. Say it again.
But
We're
isn't
pretty
that?
much on the
Didn't you
same-
just say? I'm sorry. Didn't you just say that's being on their level and you should
I
be
said
the
when you're
authority?
negotiating, you shouldn't negotiate. You should say, "Hey, it's either this or that."
But
Take
that's
a one.
negotiating.
No, negotiation. Well, will you please do this? Well, if I give you this, will you do that? Well, okay,
Yeah, I
well,
don't think
that's
negotiating is
negotiating.
is
That's
the
not
right,
the right
is
correct.
the right
That's not the
term.
right term.
But we got the same idea. We just using different words.
Okay.
Well, those are my points. I mean, that's all I can say. This is Joy signing out. I don't have anything else left to say.
Yeah, this is KT. I guess I am super anti no hitting your children. Don't touch your children in any negative pot. Nothing. I'm always the weird one. Like I hate college.
You're just going in on everything.
I just go in on like everything. I'm so passionate about it. Okay, but yeah, I'm out too.
I think if we could get some type of legislation passed where we could offer free parenting classes for everybody, that would be very nice. Because like I said, we have so many people having babies. Having babies is so easy. That people are
Yes.
just having children and they don't know a clue about parenting. They weren't parented right. And it just starts a cycle of all this
Yes.
crazy stuff. So if we can talk to President Obama or whoever's going to be the next president, if
Oh,
we could
God.
please get
Thanks,
some
Obama.
legislation passed to help these children, because I think that's really important. And we're in my establishment in which I am employed, I had a child who was very, very, very stubborn. He loved attention, and he was I have never seen a child that young have anger issues like he did. And come to find out, apparently his parents got divorced or whatever. And it came to a point where his mom was coming to this establishment in which I'm employed every
Oh my
week.
gosh.
Every week and spank that boy. And he would keep doing the same thing over
He
and
wanted
over and over again.
attention.
He wanted attention, and I don't think he was getting that at home. But let me say one thing. One day, we had a person that did not normally work with us come in and work with us, and she was talking to the children, and she said something like, I just want to tell y'all today, no kids are bad. You are not bad. All of you are good. You just make bad decisions sometimes. None of you is bad. And his face just lit up like he had just discovered E equals MC squared. Like, he was like, really? Really? Even me? And she was like, yes, even you. You are not bad or whatever.
Oh,
And I think
just
that's
touching.
important, and we really didn't touch on that today. But positive reinforcement, because at that establishment, because
you are
he was
employed.
because he was stubborn or whatever, a lot of times I think we spent too much time telling him what he was not doing right, and giving the discipline and giving the consequences, that even when he was doing the smallest thing, like sharing with a friend or said excuse me or thank you, we didn't make a big deal out of
Yeah.
it. And I think it's important in your discipline, and you're raising a child, to make sure you're encouraging that child, making sure that child knows that he or she is respected, and that you care for them and genuinely love them.
Yes.
And I think eventually you'll get some change out of them.
Yeah, I keep making sounds, yeah, and agreeing, because I'm nodding my head, but I just realized nobody can see me. So, all right.
But yeah, positive reinforcement, and that's my take on it. Again, this podcast was brought to you by audible.com, where you can read some awesome audiobooks. We were just checking it out.
Yeah,
You know,
it really is good. It really
They
is
got
good.
Lord of the Rings. For people that don't know, I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
I've watched it 10
gosh.
gazillion times. So I'm really psyched about this. I'm going to listen to it as I go to my establishment of employment, and just during the day. I can't wait.
And you can go through us, and you can actually start up with Audible at our www.audibletrial.com/talkitout.
Go to that link and make sure you sign up. You get a 30-day free trial and
Yes, I
an
can't
audio
wait.
book. And make sure you tell us what you're listening to, because we love a good book. We're always reading.
What
we're
you're
always
reading,
talking
yeah,
about books.
and
So-
especially a good cookbook with a good recipe.
Oh, I agree.
Ooh,
Vegetarian cookbooks.
please.
Yes,
I
I
don't
didn't
know if
say
they
all
have
that.
that in audiobook.
they do. They have vegetarian
they read
cookbooks.
you the
They
instructions.
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's boring.
No, don't even.
That's amazing. Oh my god.
Negative. Can you don't give us that fake?
Yes. Okay. But yeah,
This has
Talk it
been
out.
Joy.
Katie.
this is Gabby, and you have just listened to Talk It Out. Oh, make sure you hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/talkitoutpodcast. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, hit us up at talkitoutpodcast@yahoo.com. You can listen to our podcast on soundcloud.com/talkitout. And we love to hear from you. We might even get you on the show, and we love to hear your ideas.
And also, don't forget our Instagram. If you are tech savvy and you love Instagram, we always post really cool memes
I
at
do.
Talk It Out Podcast. And we could possibly follow you back. We're always commenting on stuff, especially cute cat photos.
Yay, cat.
All right.
Talk it out. at that establishment
Where
because
you are
he was
employed.
because he was stubborn or whatever. A lot of times I think we spent too much time telling him what he was not doing right, and giving the discipline and giving the consequences, that even when he was doing the smallest thing, like sharing with a friend or said excuse me or thank you, we didn't make a big deal out of
Yeah.
it. And I think it's important in your discipline and you're raising a child to make sure you're encouraging that child, making sure that child knows that he or she is respected and that you care for them and genuinely love them.
Yes.
And I think eventually you'll get some change out of them.
Yeah, I keep making sounds, yeah, and agreeing because I'm nodding my head, but I just realized nobody can see me. So, all right.
But yeah, positive reinforcement, and that's my take on it. Again, this podcast was brought to you by audible.com, where you can read some awesome audiobooks. We were just checking it out.
Yeah,
You know,
it
they
really
got-
is good. It really
They
is
got
good.
Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
For people that don't know, I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
I've watched it 10
gosh.
gazillion times. So I'm really psyched about this. I'm going to listen to it as I go to my establishment of employment, and just during the day. I can't wait.
And
So-
and you can go through us and you can actually start up with Audible at our www.audibletrial.com/talkitout.
Go to that link and make sure you sign up. You get a 30-day free trial and
Yes, I
an
can't
audio
wait.
book. And make sure you tell us what you're listening to, because we love a good book. We're always reading.
What
we're
you're
always
reading,
talking
yeah,
about books.
and
So-
especially a good cookbook with a good recipe.
Oh, I agree.
Ooh,
Vegetarian cookbooks.
please.
Yes,
I
I
don't
didn't
know if
say
they
all of
have
that.
that in audiobook.
they do. They have
I'm
vegetarian
they read
cookbooks.
you the
They
instructions.
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's boring.
No, don't even.
That's amazing. Oh my god.
Negative. Can you don't give us that fake?
Yes. Okay. But yeah,
This has
Talk it
been
out.
Joy.
Katie.
this is Gabby, and you have just listened to Talk It Out. Oh, make sure you hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/talkitoutpodcast. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, hit us up at talkitoutpodcast@yahoo.com. You can listen to our podcast on soundcloud.com/talkitout. And we love to hear from you. We might even get you on the show, and we love to hear your ideas.
And also, don't forget our Instagram. If you are tech savvy and you love Instagram, we always post really cool memes
I
at
do.
Talk It Out Podcast. And we could possibly follow you back. We're always commenting on stuff, especially cute cat photos.
Yay, cat.
All right.
Talk it out.